25 Eastern on CBS and Paramount Plus. It'll be matchup number 10 between Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. It's crazy how different this matchup is in the regular season compared to the postseason. It seems like every year Patrick Mahomes eliminates Josh Allen in the playoffs, but every time they meet in the regular season, it's mostly Allen. This is the 10th meeting there at the bottom. You see how this has gone back and forth. And Allen, 4-1 against Patrick Mahomes in the regular season, but 0-4 against him in the postseason. The Chiefs have eliminated the Bills 4 of the last 5 seasons. This season, the number's pretty similar. Maybe a slight edge to Patrick Mahomes. As you look, he's got 20 more passing yards per game. He's got a better TD to interception ratio, but the passer rating, the completion percentage, the rush yards per game, pretty much identical. We've got Danny Cannell, our quarterback, here to help us try to understand why, even though Patrick Mahomes is the winner in the postseason, why have Allen and the Bills been so successful against KC in the regular season?
You know, I don't know. It's really hard to pinpoint it. I will say I do think the Chiefs are in a stratosphere where I don't think they care as much about the regular season, right? They just want to say, get us to the postseason, and that's where we sort of dial in somewhat. Where the Bills, they're still trying to reach the status of the Kansas City Chiefs as the closest thing to a dynasty that we've seen in the past decade since the New England Patriots were that team. So whether it's focus in the regular season versus focus and intensity in the postseason, for whatever reason, I think the Chiefs have had it when it matters the most, because I do think the Chiefs have been the better football team. And I think the Bills have probably invested more into the regular season trying to knock off the Chiefs from where they've tried to bend. So it's hard to pinpoint it, but when it's mattered the most, the Chiefs have had the edge, and that is all that matters.
All right, producer Noah has set this up for me to ask you, who is the better quarterback right now? But we're going to break this down in 6 different categories here. And he wants you to think of this, Danny, as right now. Like, forget everything you've seen in past seasons, okay? Right now, which one has the better arm strength?
Oh, I think this one's pretty easy. Josh Allen has the best arm maybe in the entire NFL. And I think Patrick Mahomes, while he has a cannon for an arm as well, I picture Patrick Mahomes more of that rubbery arm that kind of just, he can throw from all different angles. He can throw with guys draping on him, but just pure sheer arm talent. Josh Allen can probably throw the thing 85 yards in the air. He can put it on a rope. And when I think of arm strength, that's what I think of. The guy with the high velocity who can throw it almost through a wall. I think Josh Allen has the best arm in the entire NFL. So in this case, I'll give Josh Allen the lean here. But Patrick Mahomes clearly is right there in the same conversation. But Josh Allen's sort of on another level.
We saw the numbers this season pretty much identical in completion percentage. So who will you give the edge to in accuracy right now?
I'll go with Patrick Mahomes. I do think he's the more accurate passer when you think about, we're talking the margins are so tight here, but being able to place the ball in such tight windows and put it, when you talk about what is being open in the NFL, it might be just the difference of a hand that you can get past an outstretched defender. And we've seen time and time Patrick Mahomes being able to drop balls, whether it's with touch and put it over a defender, whether it's, on an out route towards the side of the field, whether it's a back coming out the backfield on a speed sweep, some sort of swing route. He always looks like he's almost placing it right into the receiver's hand. So I think Patrick Mahomes has the edge in accuracy.
Okay, tied at 1 with 4 more to go. Both these quarterbacks very mobile, but in different ways. Who are you giving the edge to in mobility?
I'll give it to Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen is a more dangerous runner with the football. And I think of Patrick Mahomes, he's got the elusivity that you look for. But I really feel like Josh Allen adds another dimension as a weapon in the run game. I think of Patrick Mahomes, I don't see many designed quarterback runs for him that the Chiefs run. And with the Bills, I think you utilize that as a weapon. And Josh Allen's been one of the more successful rushing quarterbacks that's not named Lamar Jackson in the entire NFL, both this season and throughout the course of his entire career. So I would say Josh Allen is the more mobile, more of a weapon as a runner.
Next one is, I've been waiting for this. Bigger dog? Who is the bigger dog? Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen?
They both got to be. You could go with aura, whatever you want to go with. The dog that I would want to go with, the dog that I want to ride with is Patrick Mahomes. I think he's the bigger dog out there. I mean, I just think he revels in that moment. I don't think I've ever seen Patrick Mahomes get rattled. No matter, and I go back to one of the Super Bowls that he lost against Tampa Bay when he was running for his life the entire time. He still was making throws after he's getting crushed. He's been hit all game long, and he's still delivering dimes, and a couple more were dropped, or else that game might have been a little bit closer. I just picture Patrick Mahomes, who has that ultimate dog mentality that I think his teammates really gravitate toward it. I think they look at him and they think no matter what the scoreboard says, they've got a chance to win. And Josh Allen, it's not like he's somebody out there that his teammates don't want to ride or die with, but I do think Patrick Mahomes probably one of the ultimate dogs out there in the entire NFL, of just somebody who, no matter what the situation, no matter how many times he's been hit, I've never seen him rattled. I don't know if I can say the same for Josh Allen. I think he still has moments at times where he goes into a little bit of a funk, and you're like, man, where is that MVP Josh Allen? He's getting there. He's gotten more consistent over the course of his career, but I think Patrick Mahomes is the bigger dog.
All right, you've
I'm spelling
here.
that, by the way. I'm spelling that D-A-W-G.
That's how we spelled it, D-A-W-G.
Yeah.
That's aura, moxie, whatever. How about IQ? Who has the better football IQ?
So I think they're both. I mean, when you get to this level, you're talking elite level knowledge, but I'll give this edge to Patrick Mahomes as well. I just think he has such an innate understanding of what he and Andy Reid are trying to do and being on the same page. And they've been paired. It is a little bit unfair because Josh Allen has played with multiple offensive coordinators, and you've got the similarity of Andy Reid being there with Patrick Mahomes. And I thought even when he had his 50-touchdown season early in his career, his first year starting, he said, I need to get better, as a complete understanding of the game. I think he has such a good understanding of what Andy Reid wants to do and why they do it. And there's just that communication where, much like the greats that we saw with Tom Brady, when you saw with Peyton Manning, you almost feel like that is a coach on the field with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, shoot, they're talking about they have periods at practice where they let Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and a lot of those offensive guys actually come up with plays. Sometimes, yeah, they're goofy plays where they run around a circle and they're running sort of trick plays. But I think also Patrick Mahomes has a very heavy influence on what they're running, because I think his football IQ is off the charts.
All right, Mahomes with the lead. One more to go. Last one drive to win. Who do you want?
I mean, I think this goes back kind of similar to what we're talking about in the ultimate dog question. Patrick Mahomes, for me, I mean, he's the best to do it right now. He's the best we've seen in the game, really since Tom Brady left. And there's a reason why he's chasing down that Super Bowl title potentially. He's got a long way to go. But I just think when there's an opportunity for him with the game on the line, it doesn't matter if you kick it back and there's only 32 seconds left on the clock. If there's 17 seconds on the clock and you need a field goal, I look at Patrick Mahomes as somebody who, it doesn't matter. He has a chance, and that makes every single defensive coordinator cower. There's no lead that is safe. You just want to try to make sure that you score with zeros on the clock. And Josh Allen's had a couple of those moments, but I don't think he's anywhere as near as Patrick Mahomes had. So I'd say Patrick Mahomes, with that 1 minute to go, whatever the situation is, you need a drive, a field goal, a touchdown. I want Patrick Mahomes with the ball in his hands.
1 minute, half a minute, 13 seconds, 8 seconds, doesn't matter. Danny, giving the edge to Patrick Mahomes right now as the better quarterback. How about in this game? The Chiefs, slight road favorites, -1.5 in Buffalo.
I'm going to go with the Chiefs. Now, here's the reason. We talked about the regular season versus the postseason success. I think the fact that the Chiefs started this season early, off the wrong start. Like when they started 2 losses, everyone's looking at them. What's wrong with them? I think that has them a little bit more attuned than normally in the regular season than they're normally used to. So I think they're well aware of what's at stake in this game, playing against one of the better teams in the AFC that could potentially matter for home field advantage throughout the playoffs. I think they're playing football right now at the moment. I also think they're a more complete team. So I'll give the edge to, yes, Patrick Mahomes in the categories, but also Patrick Mahomes in this game. I think they go in and win and cover.
Kansas City Chiefs, they're in a really good spot and quite the remarkable situation to see how this Chiefs offense has changed since Rashee Rice came back. Small sample size, of course, but the Chiefs are being blitzed half as often with Rice, but scoring touchdowns twice as often. Mahomes has also just been better, nearly 1.5 yards more per pass attempt with Rice in the lineup. Dan and J-Mac at the touchscreen. Guys, we knew the offense would be better with Rice back, but why this much better?
Well, so far this season, when Patrick Mahomes throws the ball to Rashee Rice or Travis Kelce, he's 52 of 67, almost 80%. 609 yards, 351 of those yards coming after the catch. And I think, J-Mac, from an offensive perspective, when they take those two players and put them essentially hip to hip or stacked next to each other, it presents a lot of problems for defenses. So I want to start there. As a defense, when you guys are game planning, do you guys have the conversation of, hey, when Travis and Rasheed are next to each other in that regard, there's a special check? Because it seems like defenses get lost with those guys.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a special check, but there's something that when you have these guys on the inside, especially a guy like Travis Kelce, when we used to play against him, we would call it a hammer technique. That defensive end would get up there and make sure he puts hands on him. The same would apply for Rasheed Rice. If I'm this DB and I'm Mike Sainristil and I'm lined up across from Rasheed Rice, whether we're playing man or we're playing zone, I'm going to make sure I get my hands on him and I'm physical at the line of scrimmage.
Okay, so you're telling me the most important thing is to make sure that these guys get up and physical with those two players. Because when I put them together, what I see here from an offensive perspective is if I freeze it like right there, we just saw that motion go, and no one kicked with that motion.
Yep.
But the thing that stands out to me is I have eyes here, eyes here, eyes here.
Yeah.
The whole defense has eyes on these two players, and there's this obsession that all of a sudden that motion that went across by a player who's dynamic in Xavier Worthy, nobody runs with, but everybody's paying attention to Travis Kelce and Rasheed Rice.
And this is just a miscommunication. Now you have a rookie and Trey Amos here. He has to bump out. They're just playing cover three. But that's why I go back to the point of getting physical and getting hands on those two guys, because right now they're serving as a distraction for him because of the free release. They're just running on air.
Yeah.
And this is like it's 7-on-7 right now where you have guys just running down in a jersey and they're able to get vertical right now.
Yeah, you're totally right. Look at them get free down the field without any hand contact.
Sees all of them.
No
It's all in his
restriction.
face.
Okay, I go to a clip a little bit later where you're going to get a same setting where you're going to have Rasheed Rice, Travis Kelce right next to each other once again. And you're going to get relatively basic concepts. There's those two guys again. What stands out? What's going on right now here? Bobby Wagner, the veteran presence, what is he communicating? What do you think he might be talking to when it comes to those two guys there?
When I see this, I'm saying he may be alerting them to push, not knowing right now what's going to happen on this side of the field. He's saying that I'm going to need to come over here and get vertical. You also got to remember that Travis Kelce in this game has caught short passes and taken them down the sideline.
Yeah.
So you're very aware of where he is and how he can hurt you.
Now, last play you said you got to put hands on Kelce.
Yes.
It seems like they're doing that here. It also seems that Travis is maybe chipping a little bit. Why? Is this another blown coverage? Why do both defenders at the bottom of the screen both flow this way, and you leave a player like Rasheed Rice completely voided in the middle of the field defensively?
This looks like a blown coverage to me, and some of it goes from I'm not sitting in their meeting rooms. This looks like cover four to me. Cover four for Bobby Wagner. He's controlled by the number 3 person in this offense. It starts out as Travis Kelce when they're lined up. It was 1, 2, then 3. Once the ball is snapped and Rasheed Rice works his way into the middle, now he becomes the new number 3. He's the guy in the middle of the field. But when you're sitting in a meeting room, you're not just looking at X's and O's. For Bobby Wagner, you're saying, hey, that's Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
I have to relate to him.
I just think there's such an obsession as a defensive perspective of where's 87, where's number 4 on every play that you can lose track of others.
No doubt
and then
about
at times lose track of them because you might be so focused on a singular player.
No doubt about it.
Brought to you by ESPN Bet Sportsbook. Joe is with us. Chiefs and Bills for this one. Let's start with Patrick Mahomes. His number on passing yards is 275. What do you think?
We're going to go more. Now that he's got his weapons back, he's had no problem filling up the stat sheet over this in 4 of his last 5 games. You're going against the Buffalo defense that's left a lot to be desired this year. High total in this game, north of 50. Priced for scoring, priced for action. So what do we think of that? Both teams are going to be pushing each other up and down the field, which is going to require Mahomes to keep throwing. We like this over.
Maybe the Bills to keep running. How about James Cook, 75 rushing yards?
This is going to be more as well. Early in the game, Buffalo's game plan has got to be to get Cook the ball. 85 rushing yards in last year's AFC Championship game on the road at Arrowhead. That's the weak spot of the Kansas City defense, the ability to run on them. And what you want to do while running on them is keep Patrick Mahomes on the sideline. Early in the game, Cook should thrive. We're going more here.
Then how about Josh Allen? 1.5 passing touchdowns is the prop.
Yeah, you'll notice the theme here more. We see a high-scoring game. We see a lot of stats. I personally lean to the Kansas City side. More on that in a bit. But if Buffalo is in a game state where they're trailing, they're going to have to be throwing. They're going to be throwing early and often. And Allen's a guy who's gone over this in 5 of his last 7 games anyway, so they're going to be pushing the pace in this game.
All right,
Pedal to the metal.
It's a Rebel Yell parlay. More. To recap, over on Mahomes, over on Cook, over on Allen. If you like it, it's a parlay at ESPN Bet Sportsbook app. Look for the more or less featured parlay on the homepage and in the parlay lounge. Meanwhile, speaking of Allen, yesterday Dan Orlovsky was here and said this about the reigning MVP.
It's a must-win for Buffalo, and I go back to why last season ended the way it did. If you go to this matchup at home in Buffalo, Josh Allen has that massive run on 4th down that basically salts the Chiefs away. And then you go to the playoff game, that 4th down that was on the road in Kansas City where he's running around against that pressure, no plan for the protection, and it's a Hail Mary heave up, which ends up being somewhat of a drop by Kincaid. For Buffalo to get to the Super Bowl, that game in the playoffs has to be played in Western New York.
Game is always critical. I tend to agree. I think Kansas City can beat you anywhere you want to play. They're like the old Bulls that I used to cover. Where do you want to play? What style do you want to play? We don't care.
When do you want to play?
When do you want to play? That doesn't make any difference to them. Do you think the Bills have to win this game?
I think they do. I think better yet so they can keep pace with the Patriots, who they've already lost to in their division. Remember, they're not leading their division. Kansas City isn't either. So it's important for them as well, as they've already lost to the Chargers, and the Broncos are in the head of the division. But when you think about Buffalo it's mental, right? Because they don't think they can beat Kansas City when it matters the most. They haven't been able to do that. Mm-hmm. And this has been the nut that Josh Allen hasn't been able to crack. And the problem is he doesn't have enough weapons on the other side of the ball. Now, if James Cook isn't cooking that day, he really doesn't have any reliable receivers. That's why it's important that Brandon Beane goes out there and finds somebody that give him a legitimate weapon, because you need stars. Stars wins games in the playoffs, not role players. Let's
come back to that. When we were doing like a Friday forecast note earlier, Bart said you think the Chiefs beat them badly enough that the Bills feel they need to do something. I happen to have Peter Schrager sitting next to me. What might that something mean?
Got to put caution out there. It is really difficult for the Bills to do anything. Last year they had cap space and they were able to wheel and deal and bring in Amari Cooper. This year they have the least cap space in the entire NFL. $0. Meanwhile, the Patriots have the most in the NFL. If we're looking at these two teams, I think the Patriots are far more likely and far more able to make a deal to get them over the top than the Bills. Brandon Beane's a master. He's wonderful with the salary cap. There are ways to get around it, but Bart, I think on paper it makes a lot of sense. Bring in a receiver, give us a deal. They need it. Yeah. I don't know if they can do it. They're hamstrung right now.
Let's explain why they need it to my receiver over there. With what they have right now, what are they missing?
All right, so number one, you have guys this season in and out of the lineup. Josh Palmer, who they signed in free agency, he's hurt right now. He's out. Dalton Kincaid as a tight end, who I thought needed to take another jump this season. He hasn't played every game. And then Keon Coleman, he needs to get better as a wide receiver. I did the game last week on ESPN Radio with Steve Levy, and there was a blowout, right? But the coaches sent Keon Coleman back into the ball game so he can get more reps and continue to learn. But there has to be more to your resume and more to your route tree if you're Keon Coleman. It just can't be a go route, a slant, or a hitch, or a stop. You have to be able to run the entire route tree so you can get open for your quarterback, so y'all can have explosive plays. That's one of the things that they're lacking right now in Buffalo.
Absolutely. And just to sort of finish it up on this game before we get some bets over here from Joe, I said this yesterday. Tell me if you agree. I didn't know that this was a setting on I don't play a lot of video games, but Taylor said you can turn off injuries, like where injuries don't become a factor. If you could turn off injuries, right now I would take Kansas City against the field to win the AFC.
Exactly.
Nobody beats them. If their important guys stay healthy, nobody beats them.
Exactly, because now Travis Kelce comes to life because they have 5th and 6th options, right? And then what happens is when they put those receivers out there and they're masked for in their personnel, and they're masked for in their formations, then the box is light. So then Pacheco and Kareem Hunt runs down, right? And God forbid if they go out and get a guy like Breece Hall, or if they go out there and get an Alvin Kamara, then game really over.
I had an opportunity to speak with Josh Allen before the Monday night game against the Falcons, and I asked him in the production meeting, because we were doing the game on the sideline reporter, hey, is there an opportunity where you look at how the pressure of this game and the pressure thing says, I've put that all away this offseason. I'm going week by week. And you roll your eyes, say it's a cliche. He says, no. I've learned. You can't control that now.
Right.
All we can do is focus on this. I have to think they, as a team, are looking at this game as a huge game and not just another Week 9 game. Obvious reasons, because it's the Chiefs and all that stuff. But they know that if they lose this game, it is a huge mountain to climb.
Joe, you're giving the points.
There's blood in the water with Kansas City. I don't see him as good as everyone else does. I see him as vulnerable. They've got 3 losses. It's not November yet, but no one's taken him out. That's why it's a must-win for Buffalo. You got to put them in a position where they're not dictating terms to the rest of the AFC. That said, yeah, I'll take Kansas City here because I don't trust the Bills. 4 of their 5 wins are against the Jets, the Dolphins, the Saints, and the Panthers, who are combined 8-25. You don't have Ed Oliver in this game, which hurts your pass rush and your run defense. Kansas City comes in, it's relatively tight, and what ends up happening is Mahomes figures it out late. This game has never been about Josh Allen. He's always been great. Mahomes has always been great. It's about the fact that everyone around Allen has never risen up to the challenge when it's mattered.
Massive game at home. That crowd, there's a lot of people talking and circling that this isn't the Bills team we thought they were. All chips in. I think the Bills find a way.
I think it's going to be a fast. Certainly, it's anytime those guys are.
Tell you what, Patrick Mahomes and his offense is back. I see them going and taking on the Buffalo Bills and embarrassing them enough to make Brandon Beane have to go out and make a big trade during this weekend. I think the difference between Kansas City and Buffalo right now is really, really wide apart. And I think they're going to have to close the gap, and to do that, they got to get some more pieces.
Oh, bookmark that one. Julian Goldstick, our producer. We're coming back to that later in the show. Harry, give me a bold forecast. Give me a Friday forecast.
Yeah, I'm going to Denver Broncos in that defensive line. They're going to have 6 sacks versus the Houston Texans in that weak offensive line. This is the leading sacking team in the NFL, and Himbo sent me a stat. The Broncos sacked the quarterback at the highest rate, 11.7% of dropbacks. That's the most by any team in the last 25 seasons.
A bit lukewarm, if you ask.
They played the Jets, right?
Lukewarm.
Yeah, it's a hot stat. I like it. Harry, that was you. Peter, give me a freaky Friday forecast.
This Packers defense keeps on getting after the quarterback. I think they hold the Carolina Panthers to a single digit on Sunday, and they make a statement across the NFL that we're not just Jordan Love. You're going to have to deal with us over the next few months as well.
I like it. And then finally, Joe, give me a freaky Friday forecast.
Falcons upset the Patriots. Woo! This is your ultimate buy low, sell high. Atlanta's in the toilet right now.
Even Harry don't believe that.
Yeah.
Look at Harry.
Atlanta's in the toilet right now after what you saw in the San Francisco game, as well as what you saw last week against Miami. Don't forget, just a few weeks ago, they did take out the Buffalo Bills. Meanwhile, everybody's high on New England based on everything you've seen. Good win over Buffalo, but the rest of those wins have come against some teams that leave a lot to be desired. This is where you want to sell high on the Patriots.
Harry, that's your team. Do you buy it?
Well, it's very rare that I don't sit up here and I'm not gloating, bird calling, but today is not one of those days. I don't see it happening, but if it does, I'll be happy.
So you were telling me upstairs at breakfast, if I may talk out of school, what happened during the game last weekend?
Well, I'm talking about the game last night.
Oh, no. But you were yelling and screaming at the TV, and your wife had to hush you up?
My wife had to come in there and tell me to calm down.
Because the kids
upstairs, and don't use that kind of language that loud.
That's what I was looking for.
I was upset.
This is what you missed at breakfast this morning.
Which I was at breakfast.
You're on Sports Morning.
Benny makes a great omelet.
You missed Benny's omelet. It was a great day.
The Buffalo Bills are about to get absolutely demolished by injuries at the worst possible time, while the Kansas City Chiefs just got the green light to go completely nuclear at the trade deadline. And we're about to break down how this perfect storm could either catapult KC to another Super Bowl or expose some serious cracks that nobody wants to talk about. Let me tell you something about these Buffalo Bills right now. Their defense is falling apart faster than a house of cards in a hurricane, and it's happening at literally the worst possible moment. Ed Oliver, their absolute best defensive player and the reigning defensive player of the year, just tore his biceps and is out indefinitely, probably for the rest of the season. This is the same guy who was their anchor up front, the dude who makes opposing offensive coordinators lose sleep at night planning around him. But it gets worse, way worse. Daquan Jones, their starting defensive tackle, has been dealing with a calf injury that popped during pregame warmups a couple weeks ago, and he's been in and out of the lineup ever since. Then you've got TJ Sanders, their second-round rookie defensive tackle, who's been placed on injured reserve with a knee injury that required surgery. The kid was supposed to be their future on the interior, and now he's watching from the sidelines. We're talking about a team that had 4 starters on defense hit the IR, and their interior defensive line has been absolutely decimated. Right now, they're basically rolling out there with Deone Walker, a rookie 4th rounder, and maybe Jordan Phillips if he can stay healthy. This is the same Buffalo defense that was was supposed to be elite, and now they're asking backup players and rookies to handle Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense. The timing couldn't be worse either. This is exactly when you need your best players available, not when you're cobbling together a defensive line with spare parts and hoping for the best. Eu acredito que essa situação das lesões dos Bills é o tipo de coisa que pode definir uma temporada inteira, porque quando você perde tantos jogadores chave assim de uma vez, não é só questão de substituir talento, é questão de toda a química e esquema defensivo desmoronando. Speaking of injury concerns that could derail championship dreams, let's talk about what's happening with the Chiefs' offensive line situation. Trey Smith, who's been the anchor of that interior line and one of the most consistent performers they have, is listed as questionable for this massive game against Buffalo with back spasms. Now, back injuries for offensive linemen aren't just about discomfort. We're talking about leverage, anchor points, power transfer, and all the technical stuff that makes the difference between giving Mahomes clean pockets and watching him get demolished by pass rushers. When Smith left the field against Washington with that back tightness, most people didn't even notice at first, because everyone was focused on the celebration and the big plays. But as the week went on and he missed practices, it became clear this isn't just a minor tweak. Mike Caliendo stepped in last week, and honestly, it was pretty rough to watch. The dude has heart and effort, but he got worked over by Darren Payne and the Washington interior, giving up 5 pressures and making the whole offensive line look shaky early in that game. You could see how his struggles affected the entire unit. More conservative play calls, predictable runs, too many second and longs, and drives that just lost their rhythm completely. The Chiefs offense has been clicking lately, but that's been with Smith anchoring that interior and giving Mahomes the time he needs to work his magic. Without Smith, you're probably gonna see more 12 personnel packages, some different pull schemes to move the impact point, and RPOs to get the ball out faster. But here's the thing, this Buffalo pass rush, even banged up as they are, still has enough talent to exploit any weakness in pass protection. If Smith can't go, or if he's limited, the Chiefs are going to have to get creative with their protection schemes and hope Caliendo can hold up better than he did against Washington. Eu acho que a lesão do Trey Smith é uma dessas coisas que pode parecer pequena, mas que na verdade tem um efeito dominó gigante no resto do time, porque quando sua linha ofensiva não está funcionando, nada mais funciona direito no ataque. Now, while we're talking about key players missing time, we can't ignore the elephant in the room with Isaiah Pacheco's MCL sprain. The dude has missed every practice this week, and it's looking more and more likely that he's gonna sit this one out against Buffalo. That MCL injury from the Washington game looked nasty when it happened. You know, one of those hits below the knee where his leg bent in that awkward position that makes you immediately think, oh no, that's bad. The fact that he popped right back up after the trainers looked at him had everyone thinking he was fine, but that was probably just adrenaline and him being the tough as nails competitor he is. MCL sprains are tricky because they can get a lot worse if you try to rush back too quickly, and the Chiefs are smart to be cautious here, especially with their bye week coming up right after this Buffalo game. If they rest him against the Bills, they're basically guaranteeing him 2 full weeks to heal up properly, which makes a ton of sense for the long-term picture. But losing Pacheco for this game is a pretty big deal because he was finally starting to look like the explosive back we saw in those Super Bowl runs. Before he got hurt against Washington, he was averaging 4.8 yards per carry and had that burst and vision that makes defenses respect the run game. Without him, the Chiefs are going to lean heavily on Kareem Hunt, who's been absolutely automatic this season in short yardage situations. Seriously, the guy is statistically more effective than the Eagles' tush push, which is saying something. But the real opportunity here is for Brashard Smith, the rookie out of SMU who's been getting more and more snaps each week. This kid has that speed and receiving ability that could really open up the offense in different ways. He's got that explosiveness out of the backfield that the Chiefs have been missing, and now he's gonna get a chance to show what he can do against a quality defense on a big stage. The Chiefs also have some depth with Elijah Mitchell and Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the practice squad, but let's be real, nobody's expecting CEH to get the call up at this point. Pensando bem, essa lesão do Pacheco pode acabar sendo uma bênção disfarçada se o Brashard Smith conseguir aproveitar a oportunidade e mostrar que pode ser uma arma ainda mais versátil do que o próprio Pacheco. But here's where things get really interesting. The Chiefs just got the green light from ownership to be aggressive before the November 4th trade deadline, and that changes everything about how we we should view this team's championship window. When your ownership tells the GM to go make moves and not worry about the cost, that's the kind of culture and mindset that separates championship organizations from everyone else. Brett Veach has a history of making bold moves when the window is open, and right now, with Mahomes in his prime and this defense playing at a high level, the window is wide open. The message is clear. If there's a player out there who can put this team over the top, go get him. The question is, which positions are going to be the priority, and from what we're hearing, it's looking like defensive tackle and running back are the main targets. On the defensive side, losing some rotational pieces has highlighted the need for more depth and quality on the interior line. In big games, having a dominant defensive tackle changes everything. He shrinks the pocket, kills runs before they start, and forces offenses into predictable third down situations that let the edge rushers and secondary get aggressive. If the Chiefs can land a top-tier interior defender who can play 55 to 60% of the snaps and make an immediate impact, that defense goes from good to potentially dominant. On the offensive side, even with the running back room showing improvement, there's still a need for that dynamic player who can erase tackles and turn 3rd and 6 into a fresh set of downs. The market is buzzing with names. Guys like Darren Payne and Arden Key on the defensive side, and some intriguing running back options that could really transform this offense. The Chiefs have shown they're not afraid to pay for talent when it fits their system and their championship timeline. What's really exciting is that when ownership gives this kind of green light, it sends a message to the locker room that management is all in on winning right now, which tends to raise everyone's level of play and urgency. Eu acredito que essa luz verde da ownership é exatamente o tipo de movimento que separa os times que só falam sobre championship windows dos que realmente fazem o que é preciso para ganhar. E o Veach tem histórico de fazer essas jogadas no momento certo. Speaking of traded targets, the name that keeps coming up in conversations is Breece Hall from the New York Jets. And honestly, this could be the move that takes the Chiefs' offense to another level entirely. Hall has that combination of burst, vision, and receiving ability that would be an absolute nightmare for defenses trying to game plan against Mahomes. The dude can turn short checkdowns into chunk plays, has the patience and vision to find holes in zone schemes, and would give the Chiefs that dual threat capability out of the backfield that punishes teams for playing light shells to stop the deep passing game. Stack the box to stop Hall, and Mahomes burns you deep with play action. Stay light to protect against the passing attack, and Hall bleeds you dry underneath. It's the kind of defensive nightmare that every coordinator dreads having to prepare for. The immediate impact would be huge. Defenses would have to respect those dual threat RPO looks, which opens up dig routes when linebackers hesitate and safeties get caught thinking instead of reacting. In the red zone, Hall would force fronts to play honest, which opens up all those shovel passes and misdirection plays that Andy Reid saves for crunch time. And in 2-minute drills, he's that safety valve who can control the clock but still has the ability to break chunk plays when you need them. But here's the thing, the Jets' stance on trading Hall has reportedly changed over the past few weeks. ESPN's Dan Graziano mentioned that while it seemed like a slam dunk a couple weeks ago that they deal Hall to get something in return before he leaves as a free agent, now it feels more possible that they might try to bring him back next season. That makes them more hesitant to trade him, especially after his performance in their win over Cincinnati, where he had a huge game and even threw a touchdown pass. The cost for a player like Hall isn't going to be cheap. We're probably talking about a 2nd or 3rd round pick, maybe more depending on how many teams get involved in the bidding. There's also the political angle to consider. If the Chargers or other AFC West rivals are in the mix, that might force the Chiefs to be more aggressive to keep him out of division. With Pacheco still being a key part of the future plans, Hall would create more of a dynamic rotation where both guys stay fresh for late season games and you cut down on fatigue-related fumbles and injuries. Eu acho que o Breece Hall seria o tipo de aquisição que não só melhora o time imediatamente, mas também força os adversários a repensar completamente como eles vão atacar a defesa dos Chiefs. E esse tipo de impacto psicológico vale tanto quanto a produção em campo. Now, let's talk about why this Buffalo team might not be as scary as everyone thinks they are, because when you actually look at who they've been beating, it's not exactly a murderer's row of elite competition. Sure, they're 5-2 and sitting pretty in the AFC standings, but the reality is that this Bills team hasn't been tested at all this season. Let's run through their list of victories. They beat Baltimore in Week 1, which looked impressive at the time, but the Ravens are now 2-5 and have been dealing with injuries all season long, including Lamar Jackson missing significant time. They beat the Jets, who are 1-7 and have been an absolute disaster this year. The Dolphins, who are 2-6 and have been one of the worst teams in football. The Saints, who are 1-7 and have been starting backup quarterbacks for most of the season. And the Panthers without Bryce Young, which doesn't exactly count as beating a quality team. When you add up the combined record of the teams Buffalo has beaten, we're talking about 10 wins and 29 losses. That's not exactly facing the cream of the crop of NFL competition. The quarterbacks they've faced read like a who's who of backup level talent. Andy Dalton playing with a broken thumb, Spencer Rattler for New Orleans, and a bunch of other guys who aren't exactly striking fear into defensive coordinators around the league. This Bills defense that everyone's been hyping up as elite has been feasting on some of the worst passing offenses in the entire NFL. When they did face quality quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson in Week 1, he went 14 for 19 for 209 yards and 2 touchdowns. Drake May, who's been playing like an MVP candidate, threw for 273 yards against them. Even Michael Penix, who's been up and down, managed 250 yards and a touchdown. The pattern is pretty clear. When Buffalo faces actual NFL caliber quarterback play, they give up numbers. And now they're about to face Patrick Mahomes with an offense that's been clicking on all cylinders over the past few weeks, with weapons like Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, and Xavier Worthy all healthy and ready to go. This is going to be the first real test for this Bills defense, and I'm not convinced they're ready for what the Chiefs are about to bring. Eu acredito que essa falta de teste contra times de qualidade vai aparecer de forma bem clara quando eles enfrentarem um ataque realmente elite como o dos Chiefs, porque é uma coisa enfrentar backup quarterbacks e times ruins, e outra completamente diferente é lidar com o Mahomes quando ele tem todas as suas armas disponíveis. That brings us to the keys to victory for Kansas City, and the first one is absolutely crucial. They cannot, under any circumstances, let James Cook take over this game. This dude is averaging over 164 rushing yards per game and has been the best weapon in Buffalo's offense outside of Josh Allen. He's got 126 carries for 753 yards, averaging 6 yards per carry with 7 touchdowns, and he's been putting up over 100 yards per game consistently. The Bills lead the NFL in rushing, and it's not just because of Josh Allen scrambling. Cook has been a legitimate game changer who can break off big runs and control the tempo of games. But here's the thing. He's running into a Chiefs defense that has been absolutely dominant against the run over the past 3 games. Kansas City has allowed just 54 carries for 184 yards in their last 3 outings, which works out to less than 3.5 yards per carry. They haven't allowed a single rushing touchdown since Week 5 against Jacksonville, and they haven't given up a 100-yard rushing game to any team since that same week. This is truly an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object situation, and something's gotta give. The second key is letting Mahomes cook against what's supposed to be a really good passing defense. Buffalo is second in the NFL in passing yards allowed per game, but again, that's misleading because of the level of competition they've faced. When you're going up against backup quarterbacks and bottom-tier passing offenses, of course your numbers are going to look good. The reality is that Mahomes can absolutely shred this defense if he's given time by the offensive line. That's what it all comes down to. If Trey Smith can play, or if Mike Caliendo can hold up better than he did against Washington, Mahomes has all the weapons he needs to attack Buffalo deep and early. The third key is staying out of their own way, which has been the biggest issue for Kansas City even during their recent hot streak. 9 penalties for 95 yards against Washington, 2 turnovers on their first 2 drives, and averaging 7 penalties per game this season. That's the kind of sloppy play that can cost you games against good